It's kind of weird to look at your life in pictures, and really these are just a few, because so many of my memories, when you live the kind of life that I did, you lose things, and you lose track of things, and to be able to kind of scrounge up the remnants really of my history and look at it all laid out on the table, it really moves me, because there was good along with the bad. And so there are things that I will always cherish, and now I can look at the things that once brought me shame, and I can acknowledge them, and I can be okay. And they still make me cry sometimes, because I feel grief for sometimes what could have been, or what should have been, what God intended. But then I'm thankful, because I know that God was merciful in the midst of it all. So I guess I feel pretty proud that I was raised to be honest and dangerously transparent. So now that really is my gift to, I pray, be the message of Christ for anybody that could possibly relate. Well, my dad, he was amazing on so many levels. This picture right here was when my mom and dad, they were newly married, and he was in the Army, and he took that test. They test you and on all your strengths and your weaknesses and personality profile, whatever it is, and they told him that he had the kind of mind that he could do anything that he set his mind to do, and that he could be a high-ranking official or officer. And the saddest thing to me is that he didn't believe in himself. I think he desired that, and it meant a lot to him that they told him those things, but he didn't believe in himself. And it took me my entire life, his entire life. It wasn't until the end of his life that I realized why. And my dad suffered from abuse as a child, and I had known that he was told that he would never amount to anything, and that's just so sad to me. He was born a beautiful, talented, amazing person who had a very sweet heart, but he was very abused on every level. And I think there was a side to my dad that, he was excited about being a daddy whenever I was his firstborn, and there's a picture of him holding me, and he was a sweet dad. I think he didn't really know how to be a dad. In a lot of ways, he was still a child because he was wounded as a child. And I talk about my in the first chapter, I talk about a confession on his deathbed, and how that he looked at me and he tells me, "I'm so sorry." And there was an issue of sexual abuse as a little girl, and I believe that these are areas that people just they can't come into the light because they are so ashamed. And as much as he probably wanted to do that, he couldn't. And it wasn't until he was on his deathbed that he could actually, because it was the good side of him, it was the side of him that loved God and wanted to meet Jesus and stand before his Maker clean. And he knew that he needed to deal with this and to be honest. And so it wasn't until then that he was ready to just come into the light. And I have pictures, and I look back on these now, and I remember as a kid thinking, this was around the time, probably shortly after, and you can just really see the manifestation of how dark. I remember my mom saying were his dark years, and she didn't know this was going on. But you can just see that manifestation of shame, anger, rage, and probably self-loathing. That's what I see there. And, just the potential of this sweet family that we had so much love, and yet there was so much that was fractured. This would be years later, after my father had come back to the Lord, because those were dark years, and then it was really the prayers of my mother and her steadfastness to love him that really brought him back, and he came back to the Lord, and you could see a whole different countenance on his face here. What a handsome, beautiful man. What a sweet man in so many ways. And I loved him so, and I love him. So he played the guitar, and there was a part of me that always wanted to be like him. That's me when I was little. That's one of my favorite pictures. So there was good. There was a lot of good. And you just have to come to a place, and I believe that only Jesus can bring you there, where you can look at it all, and you can be okay. And you can love, and you can forgive. And I'm thankful. I would tell him now, Daddy, I wish that you had known that you could come to this fullness and be whole much sooner. I wish that you could have known that, and the joy and the freedom that Jesus wanted you to have. But I know that you know it now, and I know where you are, and I know that the prayer that we prayed together was so sincere, and I know that you stand in the courts of heaven with my mother, and you are cheering me on. I know that. I know that he is behind me with this, and that, in heaven, you're not concerned about your earthly reputation. What you're concerned about is that souls understand what Jesus came to do. And you don't see in part anymore. You see in full. And so I know that he's cheering me on, and that I have his support. And I would tell him, thank you, and thank you, Daddy. Thank you for coming to that place of honesty with me. I would tell him thank you for all that he did to come free, even if it was in his final hours. And I appreciate all that he passed on to me, the talents and the humor, and some people don't get to see that side of me often, because I'm very sober about the things that I see on people sometimes, and I just want them to be free. But I have the gift of laughter, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that. A lot of that came from my dad. Well, when I look at pictures of me in the pageant, and I don't have all my pictures here to show, but I've got enough. And some of these I look at, and I kind of have to laugh at myself, because I was just trying so hard. And I just want to say, bless my little heart, because I was trying so hard to really prove something to myself. But I just wanted the whole world to know that I was special and that I was lovable. And really what I was trying to do was defeat my shame. And I didn't know how, but some of it I'm I also, I went through years where I beat myself up a little bit for why did you do that? And that's so silly. And, then now I look back and I'm kind of proud of the girl that I was, even when I had very limited knowledge and understanding, and I didn't know who I was, but I was proud of the fact that I wanted to become. And I believe that God put that in me. I look at pictures like this one, and I just know that, you can kind of see the fighter in me there. It's like I was determined. And I don't know, I like that picture. Those gowns, they were pretty fun. My mother was a designer, and so all my gowns were original, and they were made by Elvis Presley's personal seamstress in Las Vegas. This is one. She made some pretty gowns. Here I am with my crown, my very first crown. That was at the Miss Nevada pageant. And back then we had swimsuit competition. I don't think I would do that now. I don't think that I would have the guts. This was at the Miss Nevada. Yeah, Miss Nevada, I'm gonna cover that girl, but Miss Nevada, I was Miss Nevada in the National Sweetheart pageant. And then it led to a lot of opportunities, to entertain. This I was playing, actually my dad was on the side there. He was playing his guitar, and really great memory here. And that was in Reno at the MGM Grand, and we were playing a song that I wrote, actually. I was on the piano. The style back then is just so funny. I mean, look at that big hair. Took me a few years to get over that. Yeah. So, I think that pageants have some really positive aspects, and, they taught me interview skills, a lot of self-confidence. So they taught me how to, I had stage presence because I had been singing a lot with my family, but I learned the aspects of modeling and how you stand and how you wear a gown, and it pushes you and it teaches you endurance. And believe it or not, they try to tell you not to compare yourselves to one another, even though that's what's happening. So it's an exercise of learning how to focus on being a better you. And even though I probably didn't do that as well as I could have, that's what I really have learned to do now, today. That's what I focus on. I think everybody struggles with, especially in the era of social media. We can get online and we can look at what everybody else is doing and how they look and how their lives look, and it's not realistic. So, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I would have from the pageant system in that world. Well, maybe. We'll just say that, maybe. I won it once. I was Miss Congeniality once. But I think I won it all fair and square because, I really cared about the girls, and I was, I tried to shine, and I was a witness, of who Jesus was to me, and I sang gospel music, and I would pray with the girls, and, they loved me, and I loved them, and so that was an honor for me. But I'm sure that there's some aspect of the whole Miss Congeniality thing being true. It was really my daughter that I believe, I've always said God gave her to me as a gift, because she's what awakened me. And, when this little girl was about 2 years old, she had a way about her that I knew instinctively I had to protect her. I had to protect her from what I realized was abuse. It was real abuse. And, we had to journey into survival, and she was strong-willed. And, they like to call you old soul, young soul, and it has nothing to do with reincarnation for me, but I would say Brianna would be that kind of streetwise old soul, and I was that tender, naive young soul. And so being a mother to that strong-willed daughter, on many levels, it just woke me up, but it was also a challenge. And but I loved her so much that that's really what pushed me and caused me to really fight forward. And I really started looking into counseling and trying to, I wanted to make things right, because while I was protecting her, I also felt tremendous guilt for having to take her and raise her without a father. And what broke my heart was that I still didn't really know who I was, and I had a child within myself that needed healing. But God is good, and His arm reaches farther than we can go, and His grace was with us. And she was an amazing girl. For many years, we went through a lot of things together. She's an amazing woman now, and has made me a grandma. When she was 17, we had just left it was about a year after we had moved to Dallas, and we had just gone through a tremendous amount of trauma and drama and just horrible things. She had to leave her school. She was an honor student, and we had a beautiful house, and she was popular and just a good girl, and a cheerleader, JV cheerleader. And we had to leave because of our situation there, and it literally was life-threatening. And when we were in Dallas, she had met a young man that I really felt like was a godsend, and he loved Jesus, and he was just a joy, and we loved him so much. And I began to see my daughter just blossoming again and laughing again, and she was happy, and she was falling in love with this young man. And they had come to me asking if they could get married someday, and I said I would love nothing more, because I loved him like a son, and I felt like he was the young man that I had prayed for my daughter. But then his life was tragically taken not long after that, and so I had to walk through the grief, and again, all that guilt festers up again, and just when your child is hurting, you can't take their pain for them, and you want to so badly. And so it was a very difficult time, but a time that I know when I look back on it, that God saw my little girl. He saw my little girl, and He knew her heart, and I had to go to Him, and I had to say, I'm helpless here, and I need you. I need you to cover her. I'm trusting you to be there for her. You're her father. You've always been there. You've always provided, and I'm asking you to cover her now. And I know that He did. And she went through the kind of depression that I thought maybe I was going to lose her. But in those years, I believe that He gave us both the grace to heal. And who she is today, you would never know. And she's strong, she's amazing, and she's married to a beautiful man. God brought her an amazing young man, and she's got 3 beautiful boys. And sometimes you just have to say thank you, Lord, and understand that it isn't about life being perfect. It's about having a perfect love that will come down and meet you right where you are and hold you together. What I would like people to take from my life is the fact that, we try so hard to project these images and chase after the brass ring that we think is going to make us somebody. And what we don't realize is that we already are somebody. We were somebody to Jesus when he took upon himself the crucifixion and he shed his blood for us. He did that for us individually, not just corporately, but individually. He saw the poverty of my soul on the day that, I was out thinking that this was like the epitome of winning some award, and I was chosen to model for a big major department store and was on the cover of the fashion section. And I was being eaten alive that day by mosquitoes while we were shooting that. But behind the scenes, I was living with such abuse at home that I was miserable. And it was like there was two of me. But God saw the poverty of my soul when I couldn't see it. And I was trying to convince myself and everybody else that I've made it. This is who I am. And that is so false. It's such a counterfeit identity. And then years later, I would continue to take that same mindset into even ministry until God absolutely walked me to the place of my crossroads. And I was broken. And I said, what a mess I've made. What a mess I've made of my life. And it was there that it's like he said, okay, you're going to get honest with me now. And I'm going to help you to see who you are and see yourself as I see you. And it would be a journey of walking it out and rediscovery. And he redefined me. So I guess all that to say that, everybody's pretty much doing that. We're all projecting these images of success and what we want everyone to believe. But he just wants us to get real and to accept the things that we hate. This little girl that I hated. I hated her. And so I wanted to become her. And now I can love that little girl. I can love her. I hope that people will have an encounter with Jesus himself, and that while it's my story and my lessons, that the Holy Spirit will meet them on this road, and that they will be willing and courageous to just stand naked in his presence, in the light of his glory, which is our mirror, and to rediscover who they really, really, really are as they look into the horizon of Christ. Because that's where our hope is. That's where our healing is. That's where our future is. And without him, I would not be here. I wouldn't be alive. And I wouldn't be restored. It's amazing what he does. And you know what? I want to say that I hope that for millennials, if they choose to pick up this book, that they will see something about themselves in my youthful ignorance, and that they'll want to change that now and look to Christ now and get honest now instead of playing the games. If you're a survivor of abuse, of childhood sexual abuse or any kind of abuse, I want you to find the value of who you are. I want you to discover who you are. I want you to be healed. If you're a woman that's been married multiple times, if you've been abused, if you've been cheated on, if you've been rejected, if you've been lied to and devalued, marginalized, I want you to just finally wake up and realize, you know, I don't have to be angry to get to where I need to go. And I can forgive. And I can also forgive myself for I felt so stupid about so many of my choices. And I think a lot of my readers are going to feel that way too. And I just want them to come to that place of total forgiveness with themselves and with their abusers. There's a lot of Me Too stories out there, and you know, when I see women marching in the streets with their fists in the air, my heart breaks for them, because I know what they feel is a real emotion, but what I'm just driven with passion for now is that even if it's a handful of women come out of that movement and say, you know what, I want more than just to run around with my fist in the air. I want more than just to expose all of the abusers. I really want to be healed. I really want wholeness. He loves us all so much. That's why he shed his blood. And he wants to heal us all. And it's the forgiveness that we find in him that actually lifts us out of the situation, and we're above it. We rise above it, and we have strength and we have grace. And then we can change the world, because we are finally filled with real love and real forgiveness and real hope that will change the world.
The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name.